Good afternoon, everybody. Going to be our summary of markets weekly trade plan. We're going to start off with the calendar, then we'll move into ES, NASDAQ. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, oil, gold, and then we'll close it up with the dollar. So starting off with the calendar here, not too active on Monday and Tuesday as far as data goes, but there are a ton of Fed talks this week. So Monday, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Fed talks on Monday. Tuesday, we have another 6 Fed talks, as well as the Treasury Secretary Yellen will be speaking as well. So a lot of speeches going on this week, not a ton of data until later in the week, excuse me. So on Wednesday, we have existing home sales at 10 a.m. We have crude oil inventories at 10:30, and we have an FOMC meeting, but this is the minutes. This is not an actual meeting. So make sure to watch out for that at 2 p.m. We'll be streaming around that time as well. As far as Thursday, we have the unemployment claims coming out at 8:30, flash manufacturing PMI at 9:45, services PMI at that same time. Moving on to 10 a.m., we have new home sales, and that's basically it for the day. So that's where the bulk of the data is going to be coming out, is on Thursday. On Friday, we have core durable goods coming out at 8:30, another Fed talk at 9:30. And then we have consumer sentiment and inflation numbers coming out at 10 o'clock. So not a whole lot of data until Thursday and Friday, mostly just Fed talks. So make sure you guys are keeping an eye on the dollar. They could be saying some things that will push the market around. There was a statement made, I believe it was on Friday, if I remember correctly. It might have been on Thursday. But there was a statement made from one of the Fed members about possibly raising rates, which caused the dollar actually didn't move too much, but ES and NASDAQ started selling off quite rapidly when that statement came out. It actually ended up being a trap, and they recovered. But that's just a general idea of what you want to look out for. If they say anything about rate hikes or rate cuts, you want to watch out for those. Okay, so starting off with our weekly trade plans here, we're going to start off with ES. I forgot to save the picture of the trade plan from last week, but all of our bullish targets were hit. So if you guys watched that video, if you guys followed our Summary of Markets newsletter, all of those bullish targets were achieved. So this is our new plan here. So our new plan, because we are in all-time high, we cannot pull any old value. We cannot pull that old value for our targets. So what we have to do is we have to take Fibonacci levels. So the Fibonacci level that I'm going to be taking is from the low of the week to about the high of the week, basically the high on Wednesday. And that's going to give us a fake out fib, which is this first needs to hold level at 53.52. If they can hold above that fake out fib, we're going to look for the first fib sell zone, which is around 5,400. That's going to be about 52 points or about 1% up. And then the second fib sell zone is about 5460 to 5480. That's about 2% up, a little over 100 points. So those will be the two main bullish targets for this week. For the bearish targets, I have a couple of levels here. So right out of the gate, if we start to hold below this POC node, this isn't really a needs to hold level because the bulls are still in control, even if it pulls back here. But if they do start to lose this POC node, they could pull back about 50 points down to that 618 level of that Fibonacci. So 618 to the 50% buyer demand is about a 50-point drop, and that would still relatively be bullish as long as they can hold on to 57. That is the lower needs to hold level. So if we start holding below that 57, that will invalidate the buyer demand and most likely start to value retrace the week before that, right? And that's going to be a drop of about 67 points from that low. So altogether, it would be dropping over 100 points. Okay. So we want to keep an eye on the bottom of that POC node, which is give or take around 53.15, somewhere around that zone. But any pullback from there could be bullish. So I wouldn't be too aggressive in selling that. But then holding below 57 is pretty bearish. All right, let's move on to NASDAQ. Same exact structure on NASDAQ. So we took the same Fibonacci. We're watching the same levels basically. So if we start to lose that POC node, look for that buyer demand. That's going to be around 18,400, a drop of about 200 points. Obviously, that's a lot of points. You can scalp that, but for the longer term traders, you're still relatively bullish as long as they can hold on to that level. If they hold on to 18,343, that's the secondary needs to hold level. That should continue to bounce higher. Okay. If they do not hold on to that level, look for the value retrace of this week here. And that's going to be a drop of about 200 points. To the upside, if we can stay above the value area high of last week, as well as that fake out fib, that's around 777. The first Fibonacci sell zone is around 19,000. That's going to be an increase of about 230 points. The second fib sell zone is about 500 points up, which is nearly 3%. Okay. So right now the trend is very obviously bullish. Last week's profile had a capital B structure. Secondary node was on the high, as well as the POC. So that means the value is bullish. As long as they protect that LVN zone in the middle, they remain bullish. Okay. So even if they pull back, as long as they protect that LVN zone, the buyers are still in control. Okay, moving on to Bitcoin here. Our plan on Bitcoin has not changed basically at all. It's just playing out the plan from last week. I did have to adjust the value levels a little bit, but overall, most of the levels are exactly the same. So a couple of our retrace targets were hit. The older value levels that were in this area were retraced. So we did have to adjust those levels a little bit. We are back above this anchored VWAP from that high. So that's that line right there. As long as they can stay above, I'd say 65,000 to 65,500, somewhere around there, they are slightly bullish. This does look like a weak high. They tried to break out and then instantly sold. So a little bit of a weak high there. Buyers are definitely getting weaker. Okay. You definitely want to see the buyers start to hold above 67.7 and then push into that seller demand. That would be a value retrace of this previous distribution. That's going to go into 71K. If they cannot hold above this anchored VWAP here, that's 65K, then most likely that weak high that we just talked about is going to push prices back down into old value, probably around 60,000, somewhere around 60 to 61. All right, moving on to oil. Same thing with oil. Our levels have basically not changed. I did have to adjust them a little bit, but overall the plan remains the same. So we built up a very strong POC node on the low here. As long as they can maintain above 79 to 78, this looks like bullish accumulation. The next target would be around 81, and then the following target would be 82. The final target to the upside would be somewhere around 84.5 to complete that value retrace. If they cannot stay below 78, then most likely the buyer demand will be tested, and that will go down to around 76. Okay, moving on to gold. I did not touch this chart at all because our old trade plan is still playing out. So there was a seller demand zone where the sellers needed to take over if they wanted to stop this breakout. They did not do that. They tried to on Thursday. Thursday had a little bit of a doji. You hit that seller demand, sold off. But then on Friday, we completely pushed that doji. And then as our candle is forming right now, it's already up almost 1%. So that breakout is in full effect. The next target would be 25.10 and 25.36. Now, I don't do analysis on silver, but I wanted to show you very quickly why gold is running. Silver is definitely leading this price action. Silver is on fire right now. They have been running for the past few weeks. You can see if we take the same exact Fibonacci on silver and gold, look at how much farther silver is on that breakout. They have already achieved their first sell zone. They are almost achieving their second sell zone. So gold has a long way to catch up. Now, I'm not a big gold and silver trader, so I don't know if silver is always leading, but it's definitely leading right now. But you guys can let me know in the comments if silver typically leads. Okay, looking at the dollar, once again, haven't changed the chart really, not really a whole lot to update here. What we are looking at that doesn't look great for the dollar, does look good for indexes, is this really big support and resistance demand. So it looks like this level is being completely flipped. So we had a lot of resistance moving forward around that kind of 105. Tried to stay above it, had a really nice low right there, and now we are rejecting that demand. So if they can stay below that 105 demand, this should completely send this trend lower, and that would also send ES and NASDAQ most likely higher. Okay, so 105, big level to watch. That demand zone is being rejected. And then 104, this previous low right here, if they can take that low, then I would say this uptrend here is completely dead. But all right, guys, that was the summary markets. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I will post the newsletter that has all the important levels. It will be the first link in the description below. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And I'll see you guys for our live streams tomorrow. See you guys.